Welcome everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Please have a seat and we'll give a break in between as well for socializing, networking. But we should start our event now. Welcome everyone and thank you for making time for this event, which is the Golden Years Blueprint. Now, before we start the event, everybody ready to play some bingo?
Let's do it.
Oh, you guys are.
Let's do it.
Crowd.
Let's do it, yes.
Yes, bingo?
Please.
Brother Nabil, did we had that in the agenda? We're gonna play bingo?
I'm a little surprised.
Or the slot machine? Okay.
Let's start with the slot.
Well, Zunaira, let's put away the bingo cards. You're not playing bingo and hide that bucket of quarters you've been collecting for the slot machine. But this tells you that we're serious about talking about the seniors. Like when you talk about seniors, you cannot talk about seniors without bingo or the slot machine because that's one of their favorite pastimes. And you know, someday we all will get there. So without much ado, we will start today's agenda. We have three presenters talking about very similar topics today. I'll start with the senior care options on where to get care in your golden years or care for your parents or family who are aged and need some support. Then Sister Nadia Farooq will talk about long-term care on how to pay for it. It's not cheap. Then the last and not the least, Brother Nabil Matara will talk about will and trust, how to secure your assets. Let's dive right in. Let's cross down. We will come back to bingo. So for seniors, and I'm assuming 65 plus year old or anybody that is not able to do their daily activities as bathing, toileting, and things like that, they need some person to help them. And that is called senior care, basically, that someone else is helping a senior cope with daily living if they cannot do the things for daily living that we all take for granted. They can get care at home, or they can move into an independent living, 55 plus housing. They're popping up everywhere, by the way, in Virginia, if you haven't noticed, 55 plus. I can't wait to be 55. Some of those facilities are phenomenal, by the way, if you go and see their floor plans. Then there's nursing home, of course, everybody has heard of nursing homes. Rehab facilities where some people go after hospital, they get discharged to nursing home, live there for some time. Not permanent, but it can be a permanent home for some people who need nursing care 24/7. And then there is assisted living facility. And why is that? Kind of the biggest block is because it can provide in-home care, level of care all the way to nursing home, rehab, hospital-like care to them. And primarily we'll be focusing on that today. Going to be a very good point. So, my name is Kashif Mohammed. I am, I guess most everybody knows, so I know a lot of you, so that's why I assume not to introduce myself, but my name is Kashif Mohammed. Other than running a school and all, my full-time job is taking care of seniors. So I have two enterprises. One is a home health company that goes to their homes, seniors' home, and provide care. Caregivers, those are nurses and all. And then I have some assisted living facilities where care is provided to the seniors in our facility 24/7. That's what the seniors call their home. So I've been doing that over 8 years in senior care, and that's one of my passions. All right, let's start with the trivia. We'll go back to bingo. What is the senior population in United States, assuming 65 years and older are senior? Anyone wants to guess?
53%.
50%?
53%
53% of what?
of the population is senior or 65 and over.
Really?
I hope so.
Yeah.
We have a lot of boomers.
No, take a guesstimate of what's kind of numbers in millions. Or,
Oh, over 200 million.
let's see.
51.
So there were 59 million seniors since
Oh, wow.
2023 in US, and it's a growing population at the fastest pace this decade. So in the last few decades, senior population, baby boomers to be exact, has been growing old, and this 2020s is growing at the fastest pace. If you can see from this graph, it's like jumping up, and every year is jumping higher and higher. It's a big medical crisis and an opportunity at the same time for United States business owners and the government to cope with the senior population. So our first option we'll talk briefly about is in-home care. So you're living in your home and you realize you're 65 plus and one day you're not able to take a shower by yourself or bathe yourself, and there's a fall risk, and then you ask your family member, somebody to help you, and that's how that in-home care really starts. Is a family or a friend comes and start helping you in householding. Maybe start getting you groceries once a week. Yeah, hey, I can help you if you don't have a Walmart account by now. But what you get living in your home, and most senior, there will hardly be any senior that would want to walk away or give up their house that they have lived for 30, 40 years. And remember the memories that you would have in a house that you've lived and grown old. Your children have grown up. You have full autonomy living there. You can get the help that you want. You're closer to family and friends. They can come and visit you anytime, come and live with you. So this is one of the most preferred option for seniors if you ask them. If somebody's growing old, 80-year-old mom, 80-year-old dad, do not want to leave their home. Who, by the way, here is a caregiver for their parents. You're blessed, brother.
Thank
You're
you.
Blessed. It's a great blessing to take care of your parents. Okay. But your mom is no way senior. By the way. So care can be provided by family, friends, or a hired caregiver. We're talking today and mostly from a perspective that you hire a caregiver from an agency and they come and help you. It's a very cost-efficient way if you need occasional care. So if twice a week or thrice a week bathing help is needed, somebody comes in the morning, helps you get up, get ready for the day, and then you're mostly independent for cooking and cleaning and everything else. But then you need more and more care throughout the day and throughout the week. It gets very prohibitively expensive for total care. People don't realize how expensive home care is nowadays. I'll show you some numbers. But the biggest thing for is the unreliability of the caregiver. So if you hire somebody by yourself or through a company and they're not able to come every day, or they fall sick, suddenly you haven't taken a shower for a week or more. So that unreliability gives, that other options that you have to look at instead of in-home care. So cost can be $1,500 per month. Currently, if you need occasional care once or twice a week, so that's the monthly cost for somebody to hire and provide you that care. And it can go north of $8,000 per month if it is total care. So if you need 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, or somebody to be there overnight, if you've ever hired a caregiver for your parents in the United States, and the numbers they show you is pretty exorbitant, and it's rising as fast or faster than the pace of 65 and older population in the United States. This number is today's number. Tomorrow's slide would have a different number. How it's paid, mostly currently is private pay, although long-term care insurance is catching up, as we'll discuss today later in the presentations. Medicaid also covers part of that. Most of the Medicaid around the United States are built upon providing that care, so that is covered by Medicaid. And long-term care insurance is catching up, but still, a lot of it is private pay that you pay out of your pocket, out of the savings that you have.
Question. Two questions on that. One, you mentioned like one time and age, and then refer to a senior. Is there like a minimum age to qualify for home or in-home care?
So when you're talking about qualification, that's an insurance question for qualification. I'll leave that to the other presenters. They will talk specifically about that. But in terms of terminology of a senior, it starts with 55 plus, because you will see sign on housing 55 plus. If you're under 55, you cannot
Sure.
take an apartment there or buy a house. But from a demographic, US government considers 65 plus as senior population for AARP, all those things. So it depends. It's not a set rule, but what you qualify through your insurance depends on what kind of insurance you've taken. I think we'll talk more about that, so hold that thought.
Yeah, for my own ignorance, you mentioned Medicaid versus Medicare, and you touched 65. So I'm just caught in between those terms.
Right, so Medicaid is agnostic of the age. That's a different kind of aid that is given. Medicare is a pure health insurance type product sponsored by the government. They're both sponsored by the government, but Medicaid works differently than Medicare. Medicare has this age thing, and Medicaid does not. It depends on your finances and all. We can talk more about that, and we'll take questions after the slides, so we can go through all of them. The other option is independent living. That's the 55 plus communities. This is the downsizing option number one. Once an average American cannot live in their house, they go get an apartment, 55 plus community. They don't have to pay any maintenance fees. It's an apartment-like setting. Some of these housing communities do provide meals, housekeeping, and those things that take the burden off of you. You can also call home care in those apartments and get some additional care there if you need. There is no resource available if you need help suddenly. If you fall or something, you have to call ambulance or the paramedics. So there's no help available in terms of nursing care in those independent living facilities that exist quite a bit. The cost is very low, $2,000 to $3,500 per month, covers like you're renting an apartment, plus some additional things. That's why the cost is like that. House paid, currently is mostly private pay. There are some Medicaid housing plans that do cover these kind of housing. I don't know about the long-term care insurance. Maybe we'll learn about that today, but what I've seen is mostly private pay. Another trivia. Nursing homes, everybody's heard of nursing homes, and I just separated how nursing homes are different from assisted living. When did nursing home concept start? And we're talking United States. Take a guess.
60s, 1960s.
Nursing home.
Guess.
Where did the old people before that, what did they do?
Well, back then families used to take care of
Each
themselves.
family used to take care of it. In America?
I say so.
Any other guess?
After World War II, late 1800s. Oh my God.
So nursing homes got started in the late 1800s as a religious obligation to provide for the poor, and they were called almshouses. So people used to give charity towards this nursing home, and either government or semi-government entity would come in and have this housing for the seniors because the children or whoever family didn't want to take care of those seniors. And nobody wanted to live in those almshouses in those days. Although some interesting numbers over here is about 100 billion is spent on these nursing homes on a yearly basis. Um, and 70%, we'll talk about that later. So, nursing home usually covered by insurance. We have round-the-clock medical care available, so there's a physician on site for the most part, nurses, physical therapists, occupational therapists, whatever you need, IV therapy, hospice, the whole 9 yard, just like in a hospital type environment, you will get all that in a nursing home, also called rehabilitation facilities here. There are quite a few. Adjacent to a hospital, you will see a rehab. After they discharge you from the hospital, they send you to rehab. It is very expensive after insurance stops paying, and that depends on what type of insurance. It could be anywhere from 14 days to maximum I've seen is 100 days they pay for nursing homes. It's a very hospital-like environment. Nobody wants to live long-term in there, although there are some seniors or people who do live their life out in a nursing home because there's no place else that will provide the kind of care they need on a daily basis. Cost, average cost, I think that's the US is $8,600 per month. If you were to pay out of pocket about $9,000 a month, we're talking about for a bed that could be in a big shared room. How is paid? Medicare, Medicaid, insurance pay for that, long-term care pays for that, and of course I've seen people private pay, they do pay that kind of money for nursing home care. I think it's the last trivia. Then we'll go back to bingo. When was the first assisted living facility opened? Guess.
1905.
1905. All right. Any other? All right. The concept of assisted. You were close with the 60s on the nursing home. That applies to assisted living.
Okay, fair enough.
Right. So the concept of assisted living started in the 1970s. First, ALF, that's the living we call it, ALF opened the Park Place, Oregon, 81. By late 80s, this term was used throughout U.S. and caught up as the assisted living, which filled the gap of nursing home and in-home care, so home away from home. Some interesting demographic here is about 1 million people currently live in these facilities in the United States currently, and kind of hold your hand together is 7 out of 10. So the census is saying 7 out of 10 people in America of our age group will need assisted living in their lifetime. 70% people, 50% you said is coming.
Right.
It's more than that actually.
Wow.
70% of people will need assisted living. And what is an assisted living facility? It's licensed by the state. It's very regulated, just like a nursing home would. Care level ranges from independent living to nursing home care, and that's why I had that big span. And it's a home-like setting. Well, there can be home-like and nursing home-like setting as well. We'll talk about that in the next slide. But it can be a home-like setting which the senior population likes. They just move from their home to another home which have other seniors population living with them so they can socialize. They live out their life over there, and whatever help is needed, that is provided in their house. So primary care, nursing care, physical therapy, occupational therapy, where help is needed, even hospice, end-of-life care is provided in assisted living facility by outside providers. We've been talking about ADLs, just wanted to go over like what is activities of the healthcare jargon here. Activities of daily living. Bathing, transferring from bed, getting in and out of bed, dressing. So at that age when dressing becomes a big challenge. So they even have different clothing, material-wise, use of zippers instead of buttons and different things for clothing to help in these ADLs these days. So by the way, that is one of my facility. They're having an awesome time outdoors. That was I think July. So earlier I said the assisted living are of two types. Large resort style. Who have seen that large kind of resort on Gaydon Road going towards Twin Hickory? Like, you sometimes wonder like who lives in there?
Every point? No.
No,
That's not every point.
Westmont. It's
Westmont.
recently opened a couple of years ago. It was like building. They were building a big White House type. So that's the picture of the building with a W on it. It's the Westmont.
Oh, yes.
It is the biggest and the most luxurious, you can say, assisted living facility in Richmond right now. This is their dining hall, and they have about 200 beds in there for people to live in there, and it is very resort style. So that is one way of doing an assisted living for the seniors, is a big building where you have over 50 people at least, 100, 120 is very nominal, and there are dozens of these facilities in Richmond. I'm not even talking surrounding counties, in Richmond itself. The city of Richmond, Greater Richmond, these kind of facilities where they house and they provide that care. The other option, which Covenant Columns, my enterprise provides, is a small home-like environment. So you are living with a small group of people, a small number of caregivers, and everything is like home. So what you would do in a home, you would do in that assisted living facility. It's not resort-like, but the meals are, fresh cooked. If you want something, the staff can make that. The activities are very personable. You get more one time. Just one differentiator I use for our business in Westmont, there's one caregiver, one nurse aide to 20 people living there, 20 seniors, where our ratio is 1 to 6 or maximum 1 to 8. So that's kind of the difference in care, where there's more caregivers per person. Assisted living cost, it's a tiered fee structure. So somebody thought of everything and came up with nursing home are too expensive, in-home care can be too expensive, and how to go with that in between. So pay for what you need when you need it. Staff is available. As you decline in your ability to do things, the fee could go higher and you can subscribe to those. Some assisted living, like the Westmonts, and there are other, Our Lady of Hope is on the Gatham Road as well. They look at your bank account. So this is where I'm going with all this education, is 7 out of 10 people will need assisted living, right? They require you to have certain bank accounts. I've heard like 120,000 cash in bank even before they give you a bed in an assisted living. That's where we currently are in the top assisted livings in America. They want to see your bank account or some assurance that you can pay for the next 10 years living over there. Cost ranges from $3,500 per month for like independent living care to $9,000 per month. Median cost in Virginia is about $5,000 per month. As you can see, 4774. That's I think that's the national average, but Virginia is 5,100 to be exact. 42% of people living in assisted living are diagnosed with Alzheimer's or some sort of dementia or memory loss. That's a totally separate presentation. Maybe I'll do sometimes on memory care and all, and where does assisted living, all this senior care, which is now the focus for this decade and the coming 2-3 decades to come, on memory care for seniors, on how fast this has become a silent killer. How it's paid: private pay, long-term care insurance, Medicaid pays for that too. The last slide, right? Covenant Columns Assisted Living, that is two of the locations that we have. Could be a larger location like this and a smaller home like that. Focus on person-centered care. We're fully licensed and insured, just like the larger facilities are, those resort-like. They have the same rigor of compliance by the state and everybody that we do. Same paperwork, same overheads. Home cooked meals, different cuisines. If you were to cater to the Desi crowd, of course, we will provide that as well. We provide dementia and memory care, which is specialized training for the staff to provide that care at the facilities. And higher level of care can be provided: hospice and physical therapy, occupational therapy. The idea is once you move into an assisted living, you live your life, and that's the definition of long-term care till the end of life. We have indoor and outdoor activities, attended one-on-one time, and that's my email address and phone number. That's the website. We'll check it out. Now we'll open for questions.
Questions? I actually have a question. This is more of, I guess, a business. So you showed two pictures of your facilities. The one on the top looked more of a house.
Yes.
So is that still like, and you did mention a home style setting, but as a business operator, it can be like in any house, or you need like,
Some modification?
So, yeah, there are quite a lot of
Uh-huh.
modifications, because the licensure and all is a very time-consuming, tedious process. And of course certified by the state, so that in itself is a big barrier to entry for anyone to come in and open in any house. There do exist some facilities like they're not licensed, but nobody would provide insurance for that. And people would be very wary leaving that, and then you would be at the very lower end of the spectrum. So, but the licensure is the tough part.
Fair enough.
Getting that and maintaining it.
all right.
Any other?
So, I have a question. So for the group here, so the idea is that for us, after your presentation should be, anticipate, like, I'm trying to understand how should we perceive this and what action should we take in response to the presentation?
Right, so if you haven't already seen with your parents some interaction of how senior care works in America, then I would venture more into like what are the options available for me, because for our generations who are most of us like immigrants, migrants from another country, it's different here. And not saying anything about your children, but our next generation will not have the same values of taking care of your parents as we grew up with. So we will be pretty much on our own, and that's a fact. And we will need that care. Why 7 out of 10 and not 2 out of 10? Because now life expectancy is more. The medical science had advanced. Everybody who doesn't have any terminal disease can live to 85, 90. I have several residents that are 90 plus. And one is 99 and a half, and that's when you start celebrating every 6 months. Because the life expectancy is more, and we should have that our life expectancy will be more, and that we will need that care. And plan for that care now. Yes.
I'm just curious to know, like, with your facilities, what percentage of your clientele are from the subcontinent?
From the Indian subcontinent or Asian subcontinent?
Sure.
0.
Why is that? Because you still fall into this amount of 10, right?
Yeah. So right now in Virginia, at least, or the southeast coast, the facilities are not, or we don't have sizable population that are actively looking for assisted living in the Southeast Asian countries, people here. And my business model caters to the American crowd. That's what we have done. But in the future, if we have, and I think our generation or the generation just before that came in would be needing that, and this is the time to build for the future. Yes.
If someone has Medicare, Medicaid, they will qualify for your assisted living?
So I'll answer it briefly, probably other folks can more. So Medicare is an insurance, and it will pay for your physical examination, for any lab tests, for prescriptions and all. So that's Medicare. It doesn't pay for any living expenses. Now Medicare is thinking about in-home care. They've started paying. So we sometimes bill in-home care to Medicare, but very, very minute amount. Medicaid provides for all the aid that you need. If you need aid to live in a house, Medicaid will pay for that. If you need aid for having a caregiver come help you, Medicaid, aid will pay part of that. So Medicaid is more on if you cannot pay for something, Medicaid will come and pay for it. Medicare is purely insurance. It will pay for prescriptions, hospital visits, doctor visits, and such.
We have a lot of African American Muslim community who are elderly, and I don't know if they know about your assisted living.
Yeah, so Medicaid, because Medicaid pays, our facility is not a Medicaid approved one, so we don't do that, but there are other facilities in Richmond and everywhere that do Medicaid.
So there's Medicaid, AID, you simply focus on the financial needs, unlike Medicaid, which is pay 65.
Yes, so, yeah, Medicare is 67 and a half, I think, and above, that your age limit is there, and also in order to qualify for Medicare, you have to work here for 2 years or some sort of that. Medicaid, as long as you're on green card, you can apply for Medicaid, and if you fall below certain financial criteria, that can be approved. There are certain conditions of Medicaid approved.
Can I answer that?
Absolutely, Dave, you're talking to an expert, so without much ado,
Yeah, because I
let me
just
pull the
wanted
next.
to mention a little bit, before I go into my one, I just want to answer a few questions because, so Medicare and Medicaid, Medicare is based on age, right? You reach a certain age, after that the government pays for your health care. And again, that depends, if you work in the system, you contributed and so on. For Medicare, they do not pay for long-term care. If you're in a hospital and you have a serious condition where you require nursing facility or something, they will pay up to 100 days. That's it. The average stay in a long-term care facility is 2.5 to 3 years, sometimes 5 years. So if Medicare is only paying for up to 100 days in certain situations, what are you going to do, right? Then we talk about Medicaid. Medicaid has to do with your financial background. Okay, how much money do you have? So right now in 2024, countable assets an individual can have in their name to qualify. So they will ask you, hey, how much money do you have in the bank? If you have $2,000 or less, then you qualify for Medicaid. So how many people only have $2,000? If you're married, it's $3,000. If you have more than $3,000 in your bank, you're not getting Medicaid. Even if you do get Medicaid, something to consider is that they can take your house. They can take your assets once you pass away. And this is a very common issue, and what some people, I know friends, what they would try to do is they would have their parents try to convert the house to their name, but even with that, I think there's a rule now, Medicaid, they're getting smart, that if you converted the house within 2 years of needing facility something, there is a limit, they will still take the house. So that is why it's not really a good idea to depend on Medicaid. And just like brother mentioned here, that Medicaid, his facility does not accept Medicaid. Most good facilities are not going to accept Medicaid. So those are certain things we need to think about. Something that I kind of stress to a lot of us is that we're so used to being in an environment where, you know, we have 10 people in the house, 15 people in the house, so there's always someone available to take care of the senior. Now that we're in the US and we are going to age here, we have to remember that maybe we'll be the only one in the house. Most likely we are going to be alone. And we have to prepare for that eventuality. And what do we have in place? Like I said, Medicaid, do we have income or not? Are we willing to let them take whatever we built? Because that's what's going to happen. So those are some questions we have to think of, and now I will go to my
Take a
presentation,
clicker.
which is right there.
Yes. I'll give you the clicker and remember what to do on the side.
Okay. So mine is about choices, options, and control. What are the different, like, you know, we have to make these choices. The best time is at the age we're at right now. A lot of times when you think of long-term care and you try to apply for it, like, you know, get other facilities, it's already too late. We have conditions and so on. Either it makes it impossible to qualify, and even if you do qualify, they are so expensive because we waited so long. Options, just like brother mentioned, right? In the house, where, when, how do we want to do that, and control, because right now is the perfect time for us to think about this. And this is something a lot of us don't think about. We think about leaving assets assets for our children, we think about retirement, we don't think about this. And just like Doug said, 7 out of 10 people are going to need long-term care if you live that long, if you're lucky to live that long to 65. Okay, so let's go to, my name is Nadia Farouk. I work for New York Life, just letting you know who I am. Okay, so again, this is just New York Life, how we can help you. So all of you on your table, you should see those papers. So we're going to do an exercise. Let's start with who. Who would manage your care? Who would be the primary caregiver, and who is going to be the contingent caregiver? Because remember, one person in today's world cannot solely take care of you, because the majority of the caregivers have full-time jobs. So if you're relying on your child, does your child live in your state first? Do they live close by? And then what if your child has to do something? Who's going to be the contingent? So write it down, think, what would you do in that situation? And then of course, do they need to hire a caregiver? Like I have had friends who had to quit their jobs to care for their parents. And then once the parents passed away, it was so difficult for them to get back and find a good job. So this is one thing. And of course, if you think that someone's going to take care of you, does that person know that they're going to take care of you? Do they know that? Have you discussed it with them? I know that my grandfather, when he passed away, before he passed away, he told my grandmother that my father was going to take care of him. So my father, we knew that my grandmother would be with us. So all of you who are expecting your kids, please let your children know.
That's a good idea.
Yes, they need to know.
I'll follow him.
Yeah. Here is the second session, the where question. I think Brother Kashif did a really good job explaining all the different options, right? Are you thinking of staying in your house till the end and you think you only need care for a little bit of time? Assisted living facility, nursing home, 55 plus? What are your thoughts? Okay. My thought is that I think 99% of here think they're going to stay in their house. But a lot of times that's not possible. So this is a second thing to consider. Now let's go to the next slide. The house section. Yes, you want to stay in your house. You want your children to take care of you. How? What are the logistics? Is it possible? So think about this. And do you have income? Who's going to finance your care? Like Brother mentioned, right? Brother Kashif said they want you to prove to them that you have this much money in your bank before you even are allowed to go to them. And the state Medicaid facilities are not good. My friend's father was there, and the mother would go there and spend the entire day at the facility because she did not trust them to take care of him. And they wouldn't, and she would put signs on the whiteboard like, please give him water. And you can't blame them because they're so overworked and there are just so many patients in the Medicaid facilities that if a lot of us were actually there, we would not want to be there. We would want to prepare for it so we don't end up there. Okay, and again, what are your current assets and which assets would you use to pay for care, right? Yes, your child is your asset. Let's make sure the asset knows that too. And then if you're going to sell something, your house, what are the tax implications? Because you might have to pay capital gains taxes and so on that as well. So before we go, just one thing, a lot of people rely a lot on Social Security, but remember, up to 85% of your Social Security can be taxed. So even Social Security is income, and you will be paying taxes out of that as well, which a lot of people don't really realize. So when you look at that number, hey, Social Security, you'll be getting $2,000. No, most likely you'll be getting $1,500, $1,600, depending. So now we go to New York Life. So this is where you buy long-term care for yourself. So what type of long-term care coverage does New York Life offer? I'll show you the different types. both, and the other one is kind of a combination of life insurance plus long-term care insurance. Both of these focus on long-term care. If you look at the long-term traditional insurance, it provides benefits that focus on long-term care, of course. We'll sit with you, we'll ask you questions, okay, and so on, and then we will focus on what kind of solution works best for you. So when you pay into our policy, since New York Life is a mutual company, what this means is that everyone who holds a policy is the stakeholder, is a shareholder. We don't pay profits or dividends elsewhere, we pay them to our stakeholder. So you might get dividends, and sometimes we put those dividends towards premium payments that you'll be making. In other cases, we can increase your benefits. So the dividends, though not guaranteed, that's like a plus. Another one is that the premiums for long-term care, generally you pay them on a monthly basis. So every month, maybe depending on whatever plan you have, it could be $50, it could be $100, $200, but that's how it goes. Now we go to the second one that we offer, which is a combination of life insurance and long-term care. What this one does is that it repositions your assets into a policy with tax-advantaged long-term care. What it does is, if you have a bucket of money that you buy, you pay for, if you have a long-term care situation, then you will use that money for long-term care. If not, then at least you will have the death benefit in that place. So you don't, like, it's not like you keep paying and you get nothing out of it. So those are the two, and then we have different ways to do it, like the premiums never increase on our asset flex, which is a combination long-term care and life insurance, and it provides return of premium options along with the access to account value. So basically, if you don't need it and you quit the policy, you can ask for your premiums back. Depending on what kind of policy you chose, you can do that as well. And for this one, a lot of times people who pay for asset flex, they get money up front from a lawsuit or from selling a house. They would pay a lump sum. So if they do that, then in that case, we say this is an asset-based solution. Any questions on this slide, or can we move on? Let's move to the
I actually
Yeah,
was gonna.
sure.
If you had to pick one, what would you pick between those two?
Okay.
In your experience working,
It has to do with a lot of things. It has to do with your age. Okay, are you young? Are you older? Do you have life insurance? I already have 2 different policies on myself. One which is getting cash value. It's a VUL, which is kind of in the market. So it's kind of like I'm investing there. So it's going to continue gaining. The other is term. God forbid something happens to me within a 20-year period. I have enough life insurance to pay for the house. So it depends. So for me, I would go with just the long-term care because I already have it covered. For some people who don't have that covered, who can't afford multiple policies or don't want to, then in that case, I would say the combination, and especially if you have a lump sum money and you're thinking, how do I utilize this? So it's totally a personal choice, and that's what we do. We sit with you, we do like a whole diagnostic where we ask you questions. What are your assets? What are your liabilities? Where do we think you're covered? If we think you don't have enough, God forbid something happens to you today, your children, your family wouldn't be able to pay for your house, we'll say, okay, you know what, before long term, you need to worry about life insurance. So that's the way we do this stuff. Yes.
So the traditional, is there a cash value and a death benefit, or is it two values?
In the traditional, there's nothing. Yes. But we have multiple packages, so you can design it. But in the other one, yes, there is a cash value. But the one thing that we have to keep in mind is that the government, the states, they want you to have long-term care insurance. Because if you don't have it, guess who's going to pay for it? Who's going to be stuck with people who can't pay, and then Medicaid and all that? So what they do is that they provide you with so many tax benefits. And the reason, so a lot of times people use individual disability insurance or long-term care is for tax deduction purposes as well, because they know that if they put it in the name of the company, they can get tax deductions, they can get tax advantages as well. state. I talked to your accountant, but that's another reason why people like these policies. So now we talked about the two main ones, right? One that was just traditional, one that was a combination. So in traditional, we have two solutions. One is the secure care, one is my care. Secure care is the one that, it's very, very comprehensive. And depending on, it can be customized to exactly how you want it. It can cover everything. And you can add as many different riders and benefits as you want in it. And that again, I said we get dividends as well. For the second one, for my care is really good. Actually, for myself, this is the one that I would choose. It is one that is more affordable. It's kind of like health insurance where the health insurance, they pay 80% and you pay 20%. So there's a deductible there that you have to pay. And you have different options depending on what you want. And then payment is, and again, this one also has dividend eligible, but of course it's not the Cadillac like the secure care is, so it's not like, highly customizable. You have 4 different types and you can decide which one to choose. For Asset Flex, there's both long-term care benefits and death benefits can be used to pay for care services. So here's how Asset Flex works, right? You make a payment, you get this amount of bucket of money, depending $1 million or so on, that you can use towards your long-term care. If you don't use any long-term care, then you get the full death benefit that was mentioned to you. If you use most of or all of the long-term care, then you get some portion of the death benefit. So it's like whether you need it or not, either way, you're getting something. So this one we call it use, die, or quit. You have a long-term care need, you used it all up. So you got it there. You die, you get the death benefit. And if you quit, depending on how you set it up, you can get all of your premiums back as well. And then let's go to the next one.
Yes, couple months back.
Yes, and of course we have our own Advantage Care team, and what that team does is, regardless of which one you choose, those are people that you can reach out to and they can help you with whatever questions you have. And to offer you strategies to help. And then I only have one question about long-term care and the age. So long-term care, basically what we do is we pay for long-term care. It doesn't have, so if you have long-term care with us and something happens to you, it doesn't matter if you're 35 or you're 50. If there is, if you cannot do things, there are 6 assisted daily living things that Brother Kashif mentioned. I forgot, assisted daily living, what is it called?
Activities of daily living.
I know I forgot, activities of daily living. So if you can't do 2 of them and you have a doctor who provides, I guess this person can't do these activities, then that's when our thing will start, depending, of course, depending on what you choose, there will be an elimination period. It could be a month, it could be 6 months. After that, you start paying for all of your long-term care needs, depending on what you choose. So here we're looking at the product type. This again, we're assuming you're a 55-year-old male. If you go with traditional long-term care, if you go with the secure care, which was the Cadillac plan, you could be paying $143 per month, and you will have a bucket of money which will be equivalent to $164,000. So that is the bucket of money that you can choose for your long-term needs, care needs. The second one, which was the affordable option, it could be as affordable as $66 per month, and that will provide you with $100,000 of long-term care coverage. So again, it's better than nothing. Anything is better than nothing. And again, we have to see where we're at. Sometimes we know we want the best, we can't afford it. The third one is the Asset Flex, which is the combination. So in that case, we're assuming, you made a lump sum payment of $100,000, right? That would give you $733 worth of long-term care needs. And then if you don't use the long-term care at all and you pass away, then $244,000 is what you will get as death benefits. So
you have total tax shelter for the amount of investment, even the one-time investment?
We do have some, yes, we do have some tax benefits to it, but exactly like the total ones, we'll have to talk to an accountant. Yeah, because we cannot say that, yes, 100%, and it depends on each state. So some states, they offer like new deductibles, other states will give you credit, so it just depends on the state, what state has what rule. And then again, living a long life is a probability. Having a strategy for long-term care is a necessity. So we need to do something to be prepared for long-term care. And again, we never do anything without a disclaimer. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Sister Nadia. We're going to switch the laptop, so just give us a couple of minutes.
समझ आया?
आपका पूरा मैंने
हाँ बिल्कुल, उसने तो लिखा हुआ आसान आसान
हाँ,
आसान।
उनको मैं बताना चाह रहा था उनके 6 और बच्चे भी हैं।
नहीं, मेरी दादी के भी 9 और बच्चे थे।
I really like that point, आपके अब्बा वाला. So I'm making
No,
my
this
will
is
tonight. I had assigned one of them who's going to take care of it and who's going to pay us.
Power of authority और दूसरा बैंक में भी if you have your account do something payable on debt. Okay, if you don't have anything in there, your money can go to that government.
हुआ ना हमारे साथ.
वो जगह ये मैं हर एक को बताऊँ। अच्छा क्या है
ठोकरे खा खा के सीखे हम।
Yes, I think we can start.
Okay. Hi everyone. I hope you're all enjoying the evening here. We have some good food, everything going on, some good conversations going on. So far we've been talking about, life and the aging process. Now, there are two things that are certain in America. One is taxes and the other is? Did I hear an answer?
One is taxes, the other is two things certain.
In America.
Oh.
So one is taxes and the other is? The code goes as debt. They say taxes and debt.
Oh, debt.
Everywhere, yeah.
It's everywhere. So,
I was gonna say Donald Trump, but I guess tax.
exactly. So this topic can seem a little morbid, a little dark, but it's a reality of life, so we have to touch upon it. And Kashif Bhai and Sister Nadia, she talked about long-term care and senior living. They even mentioned that 7 out of 10 people will need it, right? So 70% of this room is going to use it. Now another interesting stat I'm going to throw at you is 6 out of 10 bankruptcies that happen in the USA is because of medical bills. So if you're interested in that part, you might want to listen to what I'm interested over here.
You got our attention.
Okay, so a quick introduction. My name is Nabil Matra. I'm the owner of Barakat Financial Services. We are an independent consulting agency. And I would like to highlight my wife Shanima also. She's also a partner in the business. Otherwise, I won't be able to go home without a will and trust. So, okay. All right. And so I'm going to talk about will and trust as a strategy here in the USA. Okay, this is not a religious discussion, this is not fatwa-based discussion, nothing like that. We are in a different land. See, at the end of it, USA is not a Sharia-based country, right? So we have to strategize how we build our financial wealth, our financial home. So if anybody wants to build a financial home, they're all dealing, all of us here are dealing with these 4 layers, right? We have to start with the foundation, which is the protection layer, then we have the planning, then the prioritization, and the distribution. Now, the fact of the matter is most of us don't know this hierarchy staying here, alright? Why I show this is, I'm not jumping directly into the will and trust because you need to understand the bigger picture of the strategy, right? Because what is there in the protection layer? As a company, as a firm, I like to focus on protection and planning because that is where most of our first generation immigration people are lacking. We are so laser focused here on the wealth building. You know, we traveled miles away from our country and we are so laser focused on our wealth building, we forget about the planning phase and protection phase. So among this whole, if you think, you know, this is like a house, you have your living room, your dining room and all those bedroom, master bedroom. Here, this space over here is where your will and trust comes. So I'm just putting it here in perspective so that you understand the complete strategy that we are talking about here. Because some of us are so laser focused on wealth building, we forget this layer. You know, say for example, husband gets a bonus, he goes and buys a fancy car, wife gets a bonus, she upgrades the kitchen or the deck. Most of us have a top to bottom approach when we should be going from bottom to up. Once again, what we focus on is called the circle of safety because anyone and everyone, okay, be it your doctor, IT manager, a nurse, a janitor, whoever it be, everybody is looking for good kids' college education. They all want kids' marriage to happen smoothly if they allow us here in America. Then retirement, when we say retirement, most people don't factor in inflation and tax. Long-term care and medical, you heard a great presentation from Kashif Bhai and Sister Nadia on that. This is a huge money spinner. 6 out of 10 bankruptcies in the USA is because of medical bills. Then we live a good life, you know, we want to have those bucket list items, we want to travel the world, how do you plan for all of this? 5 things to be taken care of while we are alive. And the 6th thing is the legacy planning, which includes will and trust, which we are going to deep dive upon. So I hope the high level strategy is clear because people come and ask me, hey, what is will, what is trust? Just defining what is a will and trust is not sufficient, right? You need to understand how it fits into your complete financial strategy, because the goal here is to protect your assets. That's another thing, you know, if you earn 100K, more than 100K, you are considered to be among the top 10% of income earners in the USA. Just if you, and especially with the husband and wife earning, they easily cross that. But at the flip end of that statistics, our people are also among the top 6% of the taxpayers in the USA. So at one end we are making money, the real strength is when we are able to keep the money, right? Making money is one thing, but how much money we keep and grow is what really makes a difference. Okay, now coming into the main topic. What is the difference between will and trust? Will, very simply put, is just your wish list. It's just a blueprint of what you want to do with your assets. Like if you want the house to go to your wife or spouse, or if you want the car to go to your kids, that's it. Very simply put, it's just your plan. Now, will a plan alone work? Right? If there's a plan there, it has to be executed. So, for executing it in your absence, you have the ability to form a legal entity called the trust, which will have a board of directors, which by people whom you trust, also known as the trustees. So very simply put, will is the plan, trust is the body for executing the plan. I hope it's clear. Like Sister Radhe said, there's no presentation without a disclaimer. So I'm not an attorney, but that being said, I have a tie-up with a company called NetLaw, which is designed by a group of attorneys. And again, this is not a faith or anything based presentation. We are going to talk about how the will and trust process impacts our finances here in the US. Now I'm going to ask a few yes or no questions. You don't have to answer it. You can just think about it. Okay? See, are you okay with the state deciding what happens to you and your position?
Nope.
If something happened to you, have you specified who will take care of your children? If something happens to you, do you know who will make healthcare and life decisions for you? Have you completed a HIPAA form? should you become incapacitated, have you identified who will handle your financial legal affairs? So, when we say estate planning, right, the actual correct term is estate planning. It's not just will and trust. Will and trust are just two documents of your complete estate planning. And I lead my presentation with will and trust because fortunately or unfortunately, that is the most common keyword everybody knows. When I say estate planning, people get confused. Like they think about estates back in India, where there are acres of agricultural land and lakhs of crores of money. No, nothing like that. In the USA, when we say estate, in the US, estate means anything a dead person leaves behind is called an estate. So if a man passes away, he has just $500 in his bank account, nothing else, that is still called his estate. So that is why we are calling it estate planning. So a part of estate planning is also power of attorney, which we'll be touching upon. Do you want your family going through probate process at the time of one's death? If there's one key takeaway I would request all of you to take home is just this point. The main goal here is to avoid the probate court process. Alright, now let's take a scenario of a young couple. They had prepared only the will. Unfortunately, they passed away, they had young kids. So the probate process kicks in. Okay, so what happens here is, the kids will go to kids are going to the foster care. Kids are going to the foster care. So this is the scenario of disaster that we want to avoid, especially people with minor kids who are younger than 18 years. So every state has a probate court. Okay, it's mostly located in the capital city. Every state has one probate court. So the job of this probate court is to take care of estate planning. Now you might think why there is a court in every state. Interestingly, statistics say that 60% of people have not done their will and trust. I would like to test that by asking you to raise your arms, but I'm not going there. So, yeah. So what happens to when all these people pass away? Somebody should take care of their assets, right? We just cannot leave the assets dangling. So the intention of the probate court is good. They want to help people with their assets after they've passed away. But the flip side is, even if we don't need it, we will be pushed through that process if we do not have our own will and trust in place. So that is the significance of doing our own estate planning. And now you might think, okay, so what? I can go through the probate process. But there is a huge waiting list in most of the probate courts. Alright, so this is not just like taking a doctor appointment or going to the CVS and getting a flu shot. No, you have to wait for months, and you not only have to coordinate the availability of the court, you also have to coordinate the availability of the lawyer who's going to speak on your behalf, and that is going to take time and money. Now let's look at a happy flow where there is a comprehensive estate planning. So in this case, the couple, they are taking care of their will, their financial power of attorney, their health power of attorney. They created a living irrevocable trust. So in this case, the guardianship of the kids are defined. If we do not define the guardianship of the kids and something happens to us, the kids will end up in the foster care. Again, it's well intended that they don't want the kids to go to the street, but foster care is also not such a great experience. So if you don't want the kids to go to foster care, we can do this in a will and trust where we are assigning guardians saying, hey, Mr. A will take care of my kids, until maybe my relative flies in from India or any other such scenarios. Now I'll just quickly touch upon some of the keywords that you keep hearing, in the will and trust planning. One is will. Again, will is just a blueprint. It is just a wish list of how you want your assets to be distributed. Another keyword that you will hear is financial power of attorney. So this is very important. Please have this done, because it's not just a matter of life and death. Even if you're incapacitated, and we've had this in our Kerala community a couple of months back. The father got a stroke and he's not able to sign the check anymore. The mother has passed away. So the money is there in the bank. The kids are not able to withdraw the money to pay the utility bills and all that stuff. Healthcare surrogate. This is also called healthcare power of attorney. Like if somebody goes into a coma or is unconscious, who is permitted to take medical decisions? And if you have visited the emergency room, you might have heard, you know, in emergency situation, the first thing they ask is, who has the healthcare power of attorney? Living Will Declaration, this is something interesting. I've seen this only in the US. I came to be familiar with this within the US. It's called Advanced Directive. So this is where you can mention in the document what kind of treatments you want or you do not want. I did get a chance to serve, you know, with the emergency vehicle as a volunteer for a couple of months. So I did meet one person who had DNR tattooed, DNR, do not resuscitate, tattooed on his chest. So basically people don't want some type of treatments like DNR, or they don't want CPR, they don't want blood transfusion. So those things can be mentioned here in the advance. HIPAA authorization, I'm assuming you might be familiar with this. When you go even for a regular doctor visit, they will ask you, you know, who is authorized to see your medical records on your behalf. And finally, we have the living trust. So the trust is a legal entity that is going to execute the plan that you have in your will, right? And there are two types of trust. There's revocable and irrevocable. As the name suggests, revocable means you can come back and make edits to it as many times as you want. That is what we call the living trust, and that is what we deal with primarily over here. Irrevocable trust means once you write it down, then it's very difficult to modify it. This is mostly I've seen among the high net worth individuals who are trying to get credit protection and things like that. So once again, to recap, what is the difference between a will and a trust? A will is just a blueprint, it is just a wish list of the things that you want to execute with your final plan. The trust is going to be the actual entity consisting of a group of trustees and guardians and executors who will execute the plan. Okay, with this, I think I'll just take a break and then I'll open up for questions. I just need 5 more minutes towards the end, but I think it's a good time for Q&A.
So, just trying to understand, will, you don't need an appointed person that will execute your will, but for trust, you need to have a trustee that will execute your trust. Is that?
So the trust is going to execute what is in the will. Yeah, so the will is the actual plan. Like for example, the house goes to the wife or the car goes to the kids. So the probate court will check for 2 things. They will check for your will and for your trust. Okay. So why they're checking for the will is to see if you have created a plan or not. If you have a will, you have your plan in place, great. Next thing they're going to check is, do you need us to execute that will for you? So that is why you're creating your own entity called the trust, who is going to execute the will, so that again we don't want the probate court messing around with the stuff. Because if the probate court gets involved, they're going to charge a certain fee and stuff.
And also, trust you can use as a tax shelter for your money, I have heard. Is that the same trust you're talking
Yes.
about, which is after your death?
Yes.
But it can be useful
Yes,
throughout your life?
exactly.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about like what's the difference between these 2 kinds of trust, where you as a tax shelter versus for your after?
So every kind of trust provides a tax shelter, in the sense like the inheritance tax can be reduced or avoided if you have your assets under the revocable or irrevocable trust. So I think if I might divert your question a little bit, I think where it comes into play is whether you want creditor protection or not. Okay, because some people have businesses, they have accounts receivable and payable, they might be huge loans. So declaring what asset is under your control and not your control, that can be done with these trusts. Sorry, I had to divert your question a little bit, because I think every trust gives an inheritance benefit, every type of trust.
I
Yes, please.
let's say if you do not per se have a will or a trust, either or bad planning on your end, and God forbid someone. So, what happens then? You don't have a will or a trust,
Right. Right. So that is where we run into the probate code.
Okay.
So now if we have nothing over here,
Right.
the probate code is going to come and check, hey, where's your will?
Okay.
Okay, you don't have a will, I'm going to write a will for
Okay.
you with my state policy.
Okay.
That's why every state has their own probate code,
Perfect.
right? And if then next thing they're going to check, okay, who's going to execute this will for you?
Hmm.
Do you have a trust? No, there's not trust. You know what? We are going to take it over from here. We're going to execute it.
And just on based on that, especially with the kids planning, I make a will, I make a trust, and I have a trustee. And you know, life is life. Down the line, the trustee is not available, or they decide, hey, you know what, I do not want to be involved, and so we go back again to the probate court, or is there another trustee listed, or how does that work?
Okay, so great question. So brother here is asking, what if the trustee appointed is not available? So we recommend a backup plan. See, by default, your spouse is a primary trustee, by default, okay? Now, if the spouse is not available, then we'll have one trustee over there. We recommend to have 3 to 4 trustees.
Okay.
As you mentioned, this is 100% voluntary role. So if the first person is not available, we have a backup, and then we have a backup of the backup.
Okay. One more question for them. Sorry if anyone has.
No, please.
I'm here, so might as well, learn as much. So, your wife, you said your spouse is by default a trustee.
Yes,
God forbid someone's spouse, they're not together anymore.
yes.
Because I know these marriage laws and how we over here, it's really complicated and
Yes, yes.
very awarding to the female, as it should be, of course. So, are they still part of the trust then, or?
Okay, that's a great question. So there is something called joint trust and independent trust. So I was speaking with the assumption that, typically husband and wife would like to create a joint trust together. But as you say, if there is, some trouble in the water, people
Right.
might go for independent.
6 out of 7 days I want my wife to be the trust, but that one day, I don't want her in my trust, so.
Hey, I don't give marriage counseling.
Fair enough.
No, good question. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was gonna just piggyback on that if I could.
Yeah.
But again, this is kind of like irrevocable, meaning you have unlimited savings. You cannot forecast. You
Right.
Always, in the instance that there's a change, you can make the change. Kind of like life events are bound to happen.
Yeah.
So you could have the flexibility to change, not just for the bad, even for the good, for new properties, or new out of state, as a life kicker.
Right.
Triggers for you to go back and update.
Right. And
Go seek,
and-
maybe others.
yeah.
happen to that.
And piggybacking on what you just said, so I make a trust, and you said all different states have different. So I'm making a trust based in Virginia and everything. And let's say I now move to California. Does that changes things, or?
Great question. Yeah. So I just want to add weightage to what Satishji said. He's a licensed professional himself, so what he said is 100% on spot. And to your question, yes, that's the reason every state has a separate probate code. So if you migrate in the sense if you go for a vacation, come back, that's fine. But if your primary home address
Right.
changes to another state, you have to start over for that state probate.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
And we deal with the software in that sense, so because it has a more, fill in the blanks, plug-in kind of interface, so even if you change your state, it's quick to change it.
No more questions.
Yes,
for me.
please.
I came in late, so I'm sorry if this question has already been asked, but you said that there can be multiple trustees for a single trust.
Yes.
So how does it work if you have multiple trustees? Let's say I have 2 kids and
Yes.
I want both of them to be like in my trust, so like, how does that work? Is it 50-50 for each or how?
Okay. So we typically have 2 options. One is multiple trustees working as a team,
Okay.
or multiple trustees in a hierarchy. Okay, say you have 3 people in your mind. If you know they blend well, they get together great as a team, then we can assign them as a team, multiple trustees as a team. The challenge there is if there's any friction between them, we don't want the probate court again coming in as a tiebreaker. But if you trust them, that they work very well as a team, you can assign them as a team. The other thing is you can do it hierarchically, where you say, hey, this is rank number 1, he's trustee number 1, this is trustee 2. So that way, if trustee 1 is not available, then only trustee 2 or trustee 3 can take over.
Can percentages be assigned? Like I want 50% of my trust to go to my daughter, 50% to my son. can that be done or?
No, no. So that would be working as a team essentially, because you'll be having two people working together as a team.
I think there's a miscommunication.
She's
Yes.
asking how can
Yes.
that the trust be divided?
Yes, among her children, that's her question. She's not, she's,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
she wants to know if she has two children,
Yes.
can she assign percentages to them, that one gets 30, the other gets 70?
Oh, you mean ownership of the
Yeah.
assets?
Yes, that's,
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. You can give the percentage.
But that would be in the will,
That would be in the will,
in the
yes.
will as the plan.
Exactly, yes.
And the probate process would be in effect only until the kid becomes 18 and above? Like, once he's 18 and above, then they are on
Yeah,
their
then
own?
there's no need of guardianship. So there are three roles, voluntary roles we need here. The executor, the trustee, and the guardian. So the executor is the person who will actually execute what is in your will. The trustee is like a lights on person because, hey, the day the person dies, you might not be immediately partitioning the house. So who's going to pay the bills? Who's going to pay the taxes? So the lights on kind of person is the trustee. The executor actually executes what's in the will. And the third category is guardian. So guardianship means who's going to, they're not going to adopt the kids, they're just the legal representative of the kids. So. Okay, so with that, please keep the questions coming. I'll just move on to the last slide. I'll just share my contact details. This is one thing I want to call upon. Just because there's a will and trust, it does not mean that it's an insurance policy or there's a tax advantage. Like God forbid, if the car gets into an accident, it doesn't mean the trust is going to pay for it. Okay? This is not an insurance policy. Another thing to be aware of, there are some categories called non-probate property. So these assets, even if you don't mention in your will and trust, it doesn't matter. Okay? But what are those things? Life insurance, retirement account. The key word here is with beneficiary designation. Like just because you have a 401k does not mean that probate court is not going to touch it. If your 401k has proper beneficiaries assigned, that means then the probate court cannot touch it. So same thing with your life insurance, retirement account, property owned jointly with rights of survivorship. Like typically in our Desi culture, sorry for calling this out, the title deed of the house is only in the husband's name. So ideally it should be in the name of the husband and the wife. That way if something happens to one person, the other person can take control. Yeah, and then property owned by a properly drafted trust. Once you assign everything to the trust, then that should be good. Right, any more questions? So we have a small quiz. I'm going to check if you've been paying attention. Okay, it's very simple, true and false. If you could please raise your hands, that way we could just. Sure. Okay, first question. We don't want government to make decisions on our family assets. True or false? True. Raise your hands, people. Okay. Okay. Please raise your hands because the next question has a price to it. I don't have prizes for everyone. Okay, over 60% of the Americans do not have a will and or estate plan.
True.
Okay, I'll give it to the lady over there.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I have to be selective with this one. So. You have any other things?
Here we go with bingo, right?
This is just a filler for bingo. Okay. Okay, the green means this is a bonus question. Over 90% of the Americans do not have an updated will or estate plan. Yes. True, that's right. You can say your name, please.
Oh, should be.
Okay, let's give a round of applause for the winner. Okay, without a will, power of attorney, you might be putting your family at risk.
Yes, true.
True, that's right. Sorry, no prize for this one. Okay, if you don't plan for it, then the state will plan for your assets and manage your will.
True. You just
I'm going with the eldest of the audience over here. What's your answer, please? Please say your name.
I said true.
True is the right answer. Okay, great job. Right. So these these are most of the excuses I keep hearing. It's too expensive, I'll do it later. Is it for me? I'm not a US citizen. No, if you're a green card holder, H1B, doesn't matter. Just like you pay taxes, you have to, you have to follow the rule of the land when it comes to estate planning also. And then I always get the experts, I already know about this, don't tell me about it. Then let me research. So if you want to research, please allow us who have experience in the field be part of your research as well. This is my contact card, and we're giving 50% discount off, if you want to take the discount code. If you want to contact us, this is our contact card. Anything else, any other questions before you end up?
After you're done, I don't think.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Over to you, Kashif. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a great presentation. Many things I learned. So quick check. How was the food today? How's the decoration in the room? Comfortable for everyone? We should have asked that before, but was everybody comfortable? Okay. I want to thank the families of all the three sponsors, the speakers. Their family kind of chipped in into everything, and special. My wife Farheen and Zunaira decorated the room and we started keyboard. So they've been here since morning. Thank you. So was this presentation beneficial to you as a community? Because this we put together something that would be beneficial for the community. Is this something helpful for the community, Adnan bhai? Do you think other our community brothers and sisters would benefit from presentations like this, and what would you like to change? I would like to get some feedback while you all are here on how could we improve, what would you like to see in future presentation. And I say that is because we're thinking of bringing in more businesses, local community businesses, and presenting what may be beneficial to the community. Starting in another way, so I didn't want to put you on the spot.
Well, that's fine. The things, really, these are all the things that we have been thinking, but putting it off for one reason or other, due to laziness or whatever. And it was a really good reminder. And I knew about Brother Naveen, and I didn't know about other
Sister Nadia.
Sister Nadia. So those are things seems to be kind of for me currently applied that I'm seriously thinking of reaching out. So it's really beneficial.
Very good. Thank you for that positive reinforcement. Any feedback, constructive feedback on today's presentation? We didn't have a mic because the room was small. Sister Nadia, I think, could throw a little bit more voice, but I think you and I. So we're planning, if certain events like that, please look out for that. Tell your family and friends to participate a little bit more. And if you own any business, if you are registered as any kind of business organization or doing anything like that, reach out to me on how we can help each other, businesses in the community, so we can all benefit and also benefit the community in return, because there are a lot of business owners in our community that can benefit from being exposed to the community, and also community can benefit from the local business owners, that we all should support each other in this. Thank you all for coming. Is there anything else?
No, I think we're good.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much for organizing this. I think our community is really growing, especially the Muslim population, not just Asian and men, but in all areas. And I've been trying to help some of them. And we get a lot of calls retaining some days, like home days, We get referred to Muslim, although I don't know if we thought about that, but I think we have in-home services here.
We do have in-home services. We do cater to Medicaid as well, but that market has been very tight, especially when the COVID started. Since 2020, Medicaid market just became very tight from a financial standpoint. So it's hard to run that business.
And also, I think ICB and maybe Sarah will provide some input. ICB has an older senior group that takes place, I think, every Tuesday, or they meet. So maybe it would be good that we can do a presentation
Absolutely, yeah, we'd love to do that.
Thank you so much, Jazakallah khair, for listening with me. This is just my opinion. Why can't we just do these things as a larger crowd? So they
Yes.
can benefit more. Like I'm saying this, we are very few here. So if it can be done in masjid here, or in my school, like Al-Madina School of Ishmael.
Yes, some events like they did individually, so I've seen individually businesses have conducted in massages. I was planning to do that as well, but then we thought we'll come together in an outside setting, so some of the masjid folks are here. We will certainly, and actually I should say, a couple of massages have asked us to present as well in either the Khatira. I have done some presentation previously as well as how to take care of your parents, kind of those topics and all. But yeah, that can be done. Reach out to me and we can see if you have a gathering like that. We can talk about this certainly.
I think the challenge is the awareness. A lot of our first generators that are like myself and even some of us, we don't realize the importance of these things because where we came from, the background is very different, and life comes at you very fast. So they say, one of the eggs. We right now, in the next 15 to 20 years, a lot of setting over there will be senior citizens, inshallah. And that's the real challenge. We don't know how we can address it because where we came from, parents are taken care of by the kids, right? And everybody's living with their kids and all that. In America, the reality is different. I'm living in Virginia, my kids could be living in California. I'm a 75 years old, old person now needing care. That's the planning we need to start from now. You can't be planning when you're 75. That's the kind of message we need to give out to the community. I know it's going to be taboo talking about that. No, my kids will take care of me, but that's the reality side of it. Understand. So I think those are the messages very important. I've missed your assistant living thing, but I think one of the mindset is in a lot of big cities, there are already Muslim focused assisted living complexes and buildings. Eventually the needs are going to be here too.
It's coming to Richmond soon. We do serve halal food, by the way, at our assisted living facility right now.
So both are things very important from a religion perspective. There's hadith very important, like you can't go to sleep and don't have your bill ready, right? So if the bill not there, it's a very strong recommendation.
You could use that.
So that's the aspect, it's important thing. I'm just saying that these are very important aspects for our community, whether you are going to masjid or not. These are realities of life that one has to address.
Let's talk about this. A very good point, and we will do it at a larger scale as well. Any other feedback, thoughts? Well, then we all three thank you for coming and sparing your time, listening to us. Thank you, Jazakallah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great team of people.
Thank you.